One doesn't know which asanas Karnataka's famous Gowdas did when Prime Minister Narendra Modi led the International Yoga Day event in Mysuru Tuesday. Yoga trainers would suggest many asanas for them, from Surya Namaskar to Shirsasan and even Bhujangasana or the Cobra pose, if the Gowdas feel like it. Each asana has its own benefits, ranging from reducing anxiety to boosting vitality and whatnot. But of late, the Gowdas and their party, the Janata Secular, have shown their liking for what I think is shavasana or corpse pose. Yoga exponents would tell you do savasana to relax, but consciously, with attention, not like Kumbhakarna's Nidrasan. In the case of the Gowdas, it's difficult to differentiate between the two. If Kumbhakarna were a politician in today's Karnataka, even he would wake up from the electoral jolts coming one after another, but not the Gowdas. Look at the outcome of the biennial elections to four seats in Karnataka's Legislative Council last week. The JDS held two of them and went on to lose both. The most telling was the result of the South Graduates constituency. These graduates, the voters, were spread over the Gowda's strongholds in Mysuru, Mandya, Chamarajanagar, and Hassan. But the Congress snatched the seat, registering its maiden victory and highlighting the Gowda's vanishing footprints in the old Mysore region. It came barely a week after another JDS legislator, K. Srinivas Gowda, had voted for the Congress candidate in the Rajya Sabha polls, declaring his love for the Congress after he had voted.
Because I love it.
There is another party MLA, JDS MLA, S.R. Srinivas, who was a suspect in his party boss's eye. Former Karnataka CM H.D. Kumaraswamy then said that, that party legislator S.R. Srinivas put a blank ballot paper into the box to get his vote invalidated. The MLA is denying it, of course. As it is, the Gowda's party seems to be falling apart. In the MLC elections last December, it lost two of the four seats it held. A month before that, in November, the JDS candidates lost their deposits in Sindhgi and Hangal assembly by-polls, many of you would remember. The JDS, which held the Sindhgi seat, it had secured over 70,000 votes in 2018. But in the by-poll last November, the party candidate got just about 4,300 plus votes. In Hangal, the JDS candidate got less than 1,000 votes, barely 920, 925 votes, as I recall. The decline of the JDS is not a story of the last 8 or 9 months, though. Founded in 1999 by former Prime Minister H.D. Deve Gowda, the party, in fact, reached its peak in the 2004 Karnataka Assembly election. It won 58 seats out of 224. Since then, it has been a downhill journey for the party. So if you look at the numbers, 28 seats in the 224 member assembly in 2008 assembly elections. In 2013 election, it went up a bit. So JDS got 40 seats. But again, it came down to 37 in 2018 election. Look at the Lok Sabha numbers. There are 28 Lok Sabha seats in Karnataka. The JDS won 2 in 2014 and 1 in 2019. In fact, in 2019, the losers included Deve Gowda himself and his grandson, Nikhil Gowda. So what has gone wrong with the JDS? The answer lies in the ruling families, not now, in the Gowda families, cynical and opportunistic politics, I would say, and brazen promotion of the Gowda clan, which has gradually alienated even their loyal Vokaliga voters in South Karnataka. To make matters worse, Kumaraswamy's so-called dictatorial approach is driving away even his party colleagues today. How the JDS legislature party leader, that is Kumaraswamy, handled the elections in the recent South Graduates constituency is very telling. It's indicative. First, he denied a ticket to the incumbent JDS MLC in the South Graduates constituency. Then he gave short shrift to an influential party MLC, Marithibe Gowda. Now, Marithibe Gowda wanted the ticket for one party worker, Kilara Jairam. He was ignored. Kumaraswamy fielded H.K. Ramu instead. Marithiba Gowda, after the results, Marithiba Gowda actually went on to campaign for the Congress candidate. And after poll results, he has said that he wouldn't contest on a JDS ticket again. That's the state of affairs in the JDS today. The so-called kingmaker, kings of Karnataka politics, regardless of how many seats they get in the assembly. So let me give you some background. When Devagowda was a child, a fortune teller told him that he would be a king one day. But Gowda had to fight many battles to reach the throne. He was in the Congress, he was in the Congress O, Janata Party, Janata Dal, among a few others, before he formed the JDS in 1999. By the time he became Karnataka Chief Minister in 94, he was a veteran of many battles. And many of you remember his epic battle with Ramakrishna Hegde. In 1996, when the search was on for the prime ministerial candidate of the United Front government, then West Bengal Chief Minister Jyoti Basu asked Gowda to take on the mantle. You remember. You know the story before Gowda's name was floated. So let me take you back to 96 when all these things were happening. Then CPM General Secretary Harkishan Singh Surjit and Jyoti Basu, they were working together to pick the United Front's PM candidate. The left party had vetoed Basu's candidature, which Basu described as a historic blunder. All of you must remember. But in fact, the first choice of the coalition partners, the United Front, was former Prime Minister VP Singh. So as it happened, Gowda, Karunanidhi, Chandrababu Naidu, and Murali Maran, they went to meet VP Singh at his Delhi residence in Rajaji Marg. VP Singh came to see them in the lawn, greeted them, and then went back into his residence. The delegation of these leaders learnt later that he had left by the back entrance to some unknown place. So they waited for nearly 2 hours. After 2 hours, VP Singh's wife came out and she told them that they should not wait as VP Singh wouldn't agree to become the Prime Minister again. So it was after VP Singh had rejected that the United Front invited Jyoti Basu to form the government. But the CPM Central Committee, the apex decision-making body of the party, rejected the proposal as a majority of the members believed that if Jyoti Basu becomes the Prime Minister of the United Front, he would have to implement many policies that the CPM had been opposing. So after the CPM rejected it, and Basu himself later he called it a historic blunder. So after his name was rejected by his party, Basu summoned Gowda in the presence of Lalu Yadav was there, Harkishan Singh Surjit was there when Gowda was called. So Basu told him that Gowda, who was then the Chief Minister, he said that Gowda, you should take over. And Gowda was vehemently protesting. So all these details are there. So there's this biography of H.D. Devagowda, Furrows in a Field. It's authored by a friend of mine, Sugata Srinivas Raju. So in that biography, Gowda has told the biographer, as it's being recounted in the biography, that my career will end abruptly. Gowda is telling Basu, my career will end abruptly. The Congress party will not let us run the government for long. I want to be like you, like Basu. I want to be like you, sir. I want to rule Karnataka for many years. I beg you. But Basu persisted. And when Basu was persisting, Devagowda actually touched Basu's feet to try to dissuade him. But it didn't work. Gowda finally gave in. The rest is history. We all know what happened after that. So coming back to the JDS leadership today, unlike Gowda, Kumaraswamy seems to treat kingship as a divine right. And he never allowed his party's political or ideological makeup to come in the way to become the king. He first brought down the Congress JDS government, Dharam Singh government, if you remember, to become the chief minister in 2006 with the BJP's help. Then he allied with the Congress 12 years later in 2018 to keep the BJP out of power and become the CM again. On both occasions, of course, the BJP brought him down, his government down. His father, though, I mean, who was allegedly shocked to see his son compromise his secular credentials in 2006 by allying with the BJP. Now, Gowda is trying to refurbish his son's image. So, in the biography, he has told the biographer, I mean, which is there in the biography, that at a Niti Aayog meeting in Delhi in early 2019, Prime Minister Modi had taken Kumaraswamy aside. Kumaraswamy was the chief minister then. So the Niti Aayog meeting, in fact, the PM takes him aside and says, as claimed by Gowda, your father is still addicted to Congress politics. He will not compromise with our politics. But the Congress wants to destroy you. This is PM Modi speaking to Kumaraswamy, as claimed by Gowda. So the PM is telling Kumaraswamy, but the Congress wants to destroy you. You resign today and you will take oath tomorrow with our support, like Nitish Kumar did in Bihar. I'll put you on the job for full 5 years. And then Gowda says to his biographer that his son declined the offer, saying that, I don't want to hurt my father at this age. He is suffering. My government may stay or go. But at his advanced stage, I can't hurt the feelings of my father. That was Gowda's claim. The BJP has denied it, of course. So if Kumaraswamy's relentless pursuit of power has alienated the people, the emergence and empowerment of the Gowda dynasty haven't really helped the JDS. I mean, only last November when, Suraj Ravanna, I mean, HD Devi Gowda's grandson, he became an MLC. When Suraj became an MLC, he became the 8th member of the family to join politics, of the Gowda family, 8th member. I mean, Gowda's sons, now let me give you the family tree, like Gowda's sons, Kumaraswamy and Ravanna, both are MLAs. Kumaraswamy's wife Anita is also an MLA. Ravanna's wife, Bhavani, is a former Jila Panchayat member. Prajwal Ravanna, Ravanna's son. Prajwal is an MP. Now Suraj has become an MLC. Kumaraswamy's son, Nikhil, is the JDS Youth Wing president. I mean, Nikhil lost the last Lok Sabha election. So 8 members of the family, either in the assembly or in parliament or holding some political posts. I mean, probably the biggest dynasty today, if you look at, how many people are holding all this. Don't look at the Gandhi dynasty, if you start from Motilal Nehru. The people who are there now, it's probably the biggest dynasty you have. I think if you talk about power dynasty, for instance, well, you have a few, but even powers don't match Gowda dynasty. So, as it is, I'm not getting into that further. I'm talking about JDS's decline. So, in the Gowda's political decline lie the hopes of both the Congress and the BJP. Look, they are supposed to be a Vokaliga party. But the Congress already has an important, eminent Vokaliga leader in its state president, D.K. Shivkumar. Then when PM Modi visited Mysuru on Tuesday, by his side was local MP Pratap Simha. I mean, he is another young Vokaliga leader of the BJP. And Pratap had bucked the 2 decades old trend to win the seat for the second consecutive term in 2019. And don't forget, I mean, that was despite the Congress and the JDS contesting in an alliance. So, by being there, the PM is also promoting his local Vokaliga face, the Mysuru MP. So, both the Congress, obviously, and both the Congress and the BJP see mouth-watering prospects in the decline of the JDS. Well, the Gowdas don't really seem much bothered, as is evident from their cavalier approach, I would say, despite repeated electoral setbacks. So if you have a yoga trainer, how eagerly one looks forward to doing shavasana. I mean, especially when you are allowed to perform it after a lot of other active and strenuous asanas. If you do yoga, you realize how eagerly. I do it, not very often, but whenever I do, you always look forward to doing shavasana after all other asanas. But it's not for the Gowdas. They would seek all benefits from one asana, that is shavasana. Just relax, unwind, don't have to do any other thing. The only other pose they would probably do is what you call sukhasana, but not what it means in yoga. For them, sukhasana is like, you combine sukh, that is happiness, with asana. So call it the chair. So the happiness of the chair, the pleasure of the chair, that is sukhasana for them. So if they decide to kind of give up that shavasana pose, and the next one they would go, it's sukhasana. So yoga isn't the same when politicians do it, is it? That's all from me in this episode of Politically Correct. Thanks for watching.